Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Master32210, and today we're repurposing junk. Restoring, not repurposing, we're going to restore an old boat trailer. I've got several projects that are all going to intertwine together, so I figured what better way to start than, obviously, if they have a boat trailer, we got a boat coming soon. I've led on to other videos, but I don't think they're released yet on what I'm up to. But why don't we get y'all off the stand, we'll get you behind me, and we'll show you what today's project is. Alright, today's project hopefully is going to be a very quick restore on this old boat trailer. Just a quick backstory, one of my best friends, Mark, he owned it for a while, then he needed money or trying to help another actual friend out. He ended up selling this unit to another friend of mine, Eddie, who was really just using it to haul his kayak around. He got tired of throwing it on the roof of his car and strapping it down. So then my buddy Eddie found out I was getting back into fishing and water sports, so he knew I needed a trailer for a future project that's actually been in the works. So I bought this off of him for a very reasonable price. Very fair, especially for what trailers are selling for in my area. So I figured it's time to freshen this up. Now I believe him and his friend put new wood on here. They didn't cover the bunks, but they have new wood. The rim and tires were brand new. I believe they went through the hubs, what they told me. They got that taken care of. So just really, this thing just needs a refresher because this has been using salt water. Get you kind of close, you can see there's scale. There's nothing really rusted through. It just really needs a good cleaning up. So I figure first, I guess we'll start with some of the stuff that does need to be taken care of. Matter of fact, what's today is I've got the material for the bunks actually supposed to be delivered today. So I figured this is where we're going to start. We'll go ahead and start removing all of these. I'm gonna go ahead and it's in that bag. I went ahead and bought new galvanized bolts. So we're gonna use carriage bolts. I want to go ahead and drill through, mount carriage bolts, and the material will cover the heads so it shouldn't scratch up the boat. But I've noticed the front has basically the front mounts and these rears have at least one some kind of screw holding them in. Excuse me. So I know they only got like one screw a piece, and these brackets can actually take more than simple screws. We're going to go ahead and put carriage bolts in. So I figured since all the hardware is rusty, 2, 4, 6, I got 12 U-bolts holding each one of these on. And let's see if we can get you a quick pick. You can kind of see I was able to whiz one of them off. The nuts on here are completely deteriorated, and I'm thinking they used the wrong ones because they have spacers in here and all kind of mess. So what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and whiz these off from this back side. This one's already loose, but I'm just going to go ahead and have to cut them since I can't get the nuts off. I can try to maybe see if I can reuse the hardware, but honestly, we might as well go ahead and get some new stuff. And you see the scaly rust. So first is first, let me go ahead and I'm going to whiz this off, clamp it, so that way I can keep the orientation of this where it's supposed to be. And we'll whiz the other ones off and go ahead and remove this first bump. Alright, you see me trying to fight with that clamp. Now, since I got this thing precariously mounted, this build just got, or this refresh, however you want to say it, just got a little bit more expensive. And I'm about to show you why. I figured I'd go ahead and get this thing all undone. Leave it right there. Let me get y'all off this tripod. Sorry for all this. Normally I don't handle the camera like this. Now, one thing about it, I hate to do something, as you would say, half-ass. Rust, I live here in North Florida, so I have a choice of freshwater fishing and saltwater. and I do a little bit of both. You can see whoever had this, I don't even know what you want to call this. You have the nut, couple washers, another nut used for a spacer, and the problem is, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. Alright, I can fiddle with that off camera. It's just bugging me. There it goes. Same thing. We have a square nut. Now, when's the last time y'all ever seen a square nut? Square nut, some kind of washer, then the actual nut to make a spacer. So I'm going to say those are probably actually incorrect. We got rust. I mean, that's just, it is what it is when you're doing with salt water. This is cleanable. I mean, this will definitely clean up. But the reason I say this project is going to get a little bit more expensive, there's several things I noticed with this trailer I don't like. Now, when I helped my buddy Eddie pick this up for my buddy Mark, I noticed the C-channel is upside down. It was caked with dirt. Prime spot for when you're coming in and out of salt water. It's going to sit in there, and if you don't rinse it out, it's going to help slowly rot that axle. Getting to that point, the hubs are actually in decent condition as far as rust. Now all 10 lug nuts are going to have to be replaced. When I put the impact on there, like I had to wiggle the socket, and it was flaking off of there real bad. Matter of fact, judging by one on the other side, these were not. Basically there was a millimeter difference between. Let's see, there's 5 here. There's 8 of them. There were 18 millimeter, yet the one was 19. So all these lug nuts are going to have to be replaced. So while I'm in here, I might as well clean this hub up, wire it down, and clean up this rust. Since the hub feels good, and he did say they repacked the bearings, I'm just going to add some more grease with a bearing buddy. But, so I'm going to need new clamps to clamp down all of these risers. That's going to be a must. 2, 4, 6, so there's 12 of them. Then while I'm at it, the U-bolts for this trailer, the U-bolts got minimum amount of rust. The problem is the nut on them is very rusty. So, I don't know if I can get that in there. You can kind of see down here. So, if I can get that off, that's the question. If I could just replace the nut. Otherwise, I'm going to have to buy new U-bolts. So that way, one thing I do want to do is I want to flip this axle upside down if it's possible. And I don't know if there is a locating pin in here or not. And that's where I'm trying to see. If there is a locating pin, then I'm going to have to leave the axle as is. So there's no way I'm going to be able to flip it, but I can clean it up. So I guess let me set y'all back on the tripod, and what we're going to do is go ahead and find a permanent way to mount these. We'll go ahead and knock that out. Then proceed on with getting this thing restored out. I figure the best way is going to be do this is, since I bought, if you ever go to most of your hardware stores, it's going to be cheaper to buy everything in bulk. For what I was going to buy 12 galvanized, they're 1/4 inch by 2.5 inch bolts. For what 12 was going to cost me, I could, a couple more dollars, was able to buy a whole box of, what does this say, maybe 50? Just how the markup is. Basically, there's 6 holes on each one of these. I'm not only going to use 2. I don't think I need more than 2, not for the lightweight boat I'm putting on here. So what I guess I'm going to do is go ahead and drill 1/4 inch hole. Let's get you off this tripod so I can kind of show you. There's 3 holes on each side, so it gives you a total of 6. There's not a heavy enough boat to go on this thing that I'm going to need that many. Alright, I'm going to have to go a little hair. Actually, no, what I'm going to do is put it from the other side. I'll tap it in so I can seat that little square in there, and then we'll put a nut and washer on the back side. So I'm going to go ahead and do all these. I'm going to do them off camera. There's no purpose y'all watching. And you know what? Since I have the extra, I might actually I could do extra. I could do 2 on each side to give me 4. Just put it down in the comment. You think I made a bad decision by just going 2 per? Because like I said, the boat going on here is not going to be that crazy heavy that I think I'm going to need 6 per, I don't know what you call these, holders or bunks, or let me know what you think, guys. Just like that, what I did is I went through and upsized the drill bit one size, made the bolt slide in easier. And you see, you can take a hammer, I just took my baby sledge and just basically beat the squareness of the carriage bolt right in the hole. And once this is covered with the bunk carpet, this should be perfect. So now I've got it completely laid out. It's ready for the carpet. And I went ahead and marked it front, back, and L for the left side. And I'll do the same for the other. I'll go ahead and do it off camera, but I'm going to go ahead and clean up all the U-bolts. Get that into my massive junk pile that's going to be accumulated here. This bunk can go off to the side, and it's ready for the carpeting. Alright, as you see, hopefully you can see pretty much in frame. I got the 2 bunk boards already over there. All the bolts, carriage bolts already installed, and everything is galvanized. For what the difference was, it was just worth it to spend the couple extra bucks. Go ahead and buy boxes of everything I needed. So since I have overkill, I think I figured out, I'm trying to save money since I don't think the hardware that they used originally was even correct. They look like, honestly, maybe muffler clamps, like the little U-bolt clamps. And I'm pretty well sure my idea just might work. I might be able to actually reuse the galvanized, some of these to make some hardware to hold this up. If not, I'm going to just look. I'm pretty well sure probably my local Ace will probably carry something what I need. But at least I got an idea of what's going on. So the only thing left to do is just to snip off those, and I'll have the bunks undone, or the, I guess, what do you call them things? Bunks? Bunk holders, we'll go with that. Sounds good enough. So I'm going to snip all them off, and I need to get this board undone. So I was actually what I'm going to do for these, I'm just going to use the little zip wheel, and I'm just going to zip the bolt heads off. I don't need that board in the center. It really serves me no purpose. So I'm going to get some of these tools cleaned up, get them zipped off, and I'll be right back with you guys. We're going to hopefully proceed on to the next step. Well, I've got about, I'm not even sure, I want to say, let's say about 2 hours so far. So far this thing's almost getting down to the bare basics. I wanted to go ahead and remove this roller because I want to hopefully reuse it. The roller itself is actually in decent condition, just needs to be cleaned up. I'm guessing this is maybe a stainless hardware. I'm able to remove that, so that's going to be set aside for the cleanup pile. We'll save some of this hardware, and some of it, since I had it, look at this. This is some weird stuff. I've never seen anything like this. So I don't know if it's old or somebody just reused whatever they had, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this to have a reference. So I need 2 of these. The front roller, I've kind of decided I'm not going to remove it, even though I would really like to clean up under it. I'm still on the fence, because the only way I know I'm going to be able to remove it is I'm going to have to zip both of the bolts off. So I'm kind of on the fence to remove it and clean it up, or just leave it and clean up around it. This thing is for sure, this thing is old. We have another one. Ooh, that is warm. But I've never seen anything like that. For right now, I'll just stick them together. So I've been trying to clean up tools as I go along because I hate tools laying everywhere, especially in my confined work area underneath the barn. So the only thing left next to do is going to be, I need to remove the trailer wiring, and I'm very much contemplating going to Harbor Freight and getting a needle scaler to help get up in some of these areas. So let me figure out what I'm going to do next, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, you're going to have to excuse the train. It's something I have to live around. So, I'll explain what I just did. What I'm going to is, I'm going to go through and pull all the clips that hold the wire onto the frame. For right now, I'm going to go ahead and temporarily remove all the wiring for the lights. I'm going to go ahead and pull the lights. And, you know what, I can go ahead and take y'all off the stand and show you. Some spots like back here, there's bubbles, but they're solid. You kind of see the same thing. But this frame looks like it's been several different colors. It's been a yellow and a blue, no, I'm sorry, yellow and a green, and then it was painted black. For the most part, this thing's actually very much cleaning up pretty well, so she's very solid. The most that what I've seen was just surface rust. Oh Lord, thank you. So that's really all I've seen. To get these off, to me they're a pain in the tail to install, but I just use simple little leverage, and I'm just trying to find where he stuck all the clips. I think there's only a couple more. Trying not to make this video boring, but just like videoing clearing off rust, I mean, how entertaining is that? So a little simple pry bar. Now what I can do is just fish all the wires out, and he hid one on me. I'll do that one off camera. I'm leaning all the way across. Once all the clips are undone, I can pull all the wire back through to the tongue. Oh, excuse me. Yes, best advice I can give, whenever you're playing around with rust and you got like a heavy wire brush, that stuff is awesome for your angle grinder. I picked up a set of 3-4 different kinds at Harbor Freight. I think it was around 12 bucks maybe. I've had them forever. They work wonderful for removing rust. The outside of the frame is going to be very easy. Now the fun part is going to be getting inside the C-channel. So I still have to figure out how I'm going to do that. Now, something else I've also realized, if you notice here, somebody's modified this over time. This axle originally wasn't the setup for this trailer. It used a through bolt in the front. Then I believe this is a slap spring. It's basically got a flat edge that comes up here. Now I do have some other springs I could put on this, but I don't want to go something super heavy duty and something super tall. But since I'm refurbing this for my own use, I could, in theory, just do whatever I want. And thinking about it, and I went to go remove these, and my big air compressor for some reason has quit, and the little one that was given to me a couple years ago by one of my buddies, it's just it don't have enough power to really run the impact. So I'm still trying to decide what I want to do. If I cut, you can see them right there, if I cut the 2 bolts out, it holds the fender in place, and it holds this bracket that holds the leaf spring on. So I'm trying to decide what I want to do. If I go ahead and cut them out, it will drop the axle, which will give me more access to clean up more of the frame. But then I'm going to have to go locate some more new hardware, which isn't a big deal. It's the only bad downfall living in a small town, because today is Saturday and they're going to be closed Sunday. So it'll be Monday before I could do anything. So I want to clean this thing up and keep it usable for many more years. but I'm trying to decide on how much time and effort I want to put into this. I've got about 4 hours now into it, stripping it down to this point. So I'm gonna get off this camera and quit rambling on, and I've got a lot more rust to remove. I'm gonna figure out how to do it. And what you're looking at is a complete frame that's been descaled. I've got 3.5 hours and running that needle scaler. Yeah, just like I said in the last clip, I ended up, it was around 4:30 yesterday, I gave up. I was so tired from the heat because North Florida weather, the humidity's so hot. As I stated, I ran down to the Harbor Freight in the nearest big city, which is about 35 minutes away. Crossed over, went ahead and bought it. After reading all the reviews online, I heard there was all kind of mess, good and bad. So I said, well, for less than $30, went ahead and bought it. And of course, just like all air tools, I had to buy a little extra kit to add on the little attachment. But it actually works phenomenal. I was able to go ahead and do everything, all inside the C channel. Everything's been descaled. And what you're left with, yeah, you're still left with a little bit of rust. And I could spend another month doing all kind of stuff. But the rust paint that I'm using just basically says get rid of the heavy scale. And it's oil based, so what it's going to do is encapsulate the rust. It'll neutralize it and stop it. I'm going to bring the paint out because it's time to remove these off to the side. I went ahead and cleaned up the one roller. I decided I am going to use it. Decided I'm not going to remove that. There's certain things that it's just not going to be worth it to do. I mean, that's not hurting nothing. The frame itself is very solid. I was surprised. The axle, as much as I want to take it apart and flip it, I think it's going to end up causing me more headache than it's going to be worth. Because I'm almost going to believe there are locating pins in the center of that axle. So what I'm going to do, since the axle is actually very solid, I'm going to coat it just like the frame in several coats of the thick paint. But what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and purchase another axle and have it on standby with brand new hubs and everything. These hubs are good, so I'm just going to grease them up for right now. There's just sometimes you got to know when to say when. I still have to remove the lights and clean up behind them. I haven't done that. The next big thing, I think, before I start painting is I measure the trailer from this point back. And it gives me about a foot and a couple inches of overhang for the boat. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to twist this correctly. I believe he done this for his kayak the way he had it sitting up here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist that so it faces outward. Then the nose of this needs to come back to approximately right here. So this whole mechanism scoots back. Give me a second, I'm going to go ahead and grab the paint. I'll go ahead and I will do this off camera and I'll be right back with you guys. What do you think? This is so far is the first coat. And honestly, I think as nice as this paint lays down, let me grab the can to show you. This is exactly what I'm using. It's Ace brand Rust Stop Protective Enamel. It is oil based. That's the part that I like with the Rust-Oleum. Keep in mind, just because Ace sells it doesn't mean that Ace made it. A lot of brands such as that, they're going to be made by a name brand company such as Rust-Oleum. Now the difference was about $3-4 a can difference. So I said I've tried some of their spray paints out and I really can't complain. It lays on nice and thick just like the Rust-Oleum. I'm using a 2-inch chip brush. Nothing special. From Ace, I think it was like $1.29. I bought 2 of them, which I'll probably go back and buy about 2 or 3 more, because just like right now I'm having to quit so I can go get ready and cleaned up for work. I've done a lot of mostly on the left side of the frame. I've done mostly the flatter surfaces. I haven't went in and done the inside, but if this works just like the rest of the paints I've ever used, if you lay it on nice and thick, it is self-leveling. Coat it real super thick. The thicker you get it, it'll adhere more to that rust. and it'll encapsulate it, and it'll stop the rust from wanting to come back as easily. And now rust will eventually, it can find its way back. But after doing all the prep work of needle scaling it and wire brushing it with angle grinder, that's the important part. Get it the heavy scale off. This is the protective coat. So for the most part, everything is set. I'll finish painting this out. I have the little brackets, some down there and some up here. That's for the bunks. We're going to be working on those separate. I'll set up a little table to work on them once this dries, and I'll show you that in here in a couple clips. I went ahead and scooted this back so that way this front piece was going to line up right where the boat should be. I might have to adjust it down, but I don't know until I get the boat on the trailer. I will have to go buy 2 lower bolts. They're kind of wide and they're not sandwiching it enough to really keep it in place. So I'll worry about that once the boat is actually on there. But the restoration continues. Try not to keep this boring video. I didn't think y'all were going to sit there and want to watch me paint. So we'll start this up tomorrow morning. Or actually, I'll start on this tomorrow morning, probably without you. I'm just going to keep on painting, get everything, every nook and cranny I can get done. Then I'll have a friend come and help me and flip it upside down to do the bottom. Alright, I figured this is several days later. We can see what it looks like. I went ahead and mounted the wheels. Still got to grease the hubs, tighten the lug nuts down. Went ahead and installed the bunk risers. The tops of them aren't painted yet, and that's because I had to paint everything upside down. Went ahead and done a separate video on how to recover your bunk boards. So all I got to do is paint these, let them dry. As thick as I'm laying on the paint, I want to let it get, I give it several days to dry and cure before I'll go ahead and install these. Lug nuts. Why it's important on a boat trailer if you're using it in salt water. I do have one lug I need to clean up. I need to really, it didn't have a lug nut on it, so I need to really clean that lug stud. But hopefully you can see how much weight these anorexic lug nuts have lost compared to that one. All of these are supposed to be the same diameter as this. So this is why it's important to replace your lug nuts and to keep them clean. Rinse off your trailers or anything that has to do with salt water, even brackish water. So I went ahead and bought a pack there are 2 packs of 5s. Went ahead and done that. I have the hardware for this. I'm not going to install this till the bunk boards are done. I'm going to do this way after this video is done. The reason is I put these the bunk risers identical to how they came off. I like the fact because this trailer is going to be down the boat ramp, it's going to allow it to slip up. Then I want the front, because the way the front of my particular boat angles up, I wanted to keep the angle going straight up to there. So what I'm going to do is reinstall this bunk roller, or the boat roller, right here, and I'm going to put a board or a level. I want to make sure the boat will ride and help glide up. But like I said, that's going to be done after this video. I'll make a follow-up one. I still have a couple of touch-ups to do on the very bottom side of the frame. That's something else I'm going to do off camera. There's no point to it. If you can see, went ahead and used my little vinyl cutter. Went ahead and threw on my YouTube logo. I have 3. I have one on this side, one on that side of the front of the trailer, one on the back. Got to advertise while you drive. This, for right now, I'm going to leave it in this position. As you can see, it's fully adjustable. I'm going to leave it there until I get the boat back on here and we figure out exactly where it needs to go. Same thing as I stated in an earlier clip, I want to replace this to really sandwich everything together. That will all get done once the boat's on. But right now, what we're going to do, went to Harbor Freight, grabbed some goodies. I figure let's go ahead and install these. At least they'll be mounted on this trailer and get it off the cinder block. Still got some more painting up here to do. I forgot to grab the key to remove this cheesy lock. Nothing against my buddy Eddie, I appreciate it. But I'm going to go ahead and switch this out for like one I keep on my 16-foot. It's a little bit more cut resistant, so you cannot get any kind of cutter in there. This as well, this needs to get painted. I will clean this chain up and paint it, and I do want to switch these because on a camper of mine, I have literally, it came uncoupled, and I literally straightened these so-called safety hooks out. All right, without further ado, let's get y'all on a tripod. Let's get these things on here so we can get this video wrapped up. I'm trying to figure out how you open this sucker. Here we go. One nice new boat winch. Instructions. Nobody bothers with instructions. This is actually very simple. Really don't need it. Nice setup. Comes nice and oily so that of course it doesn't rust while you're waiting to buy it. Not like Harbor Freight would ever sell you anything cheesy, right? Now, I see one problem. Let me get you guys moved over here. Now, I would have liked to keep this under here, but I didn't take this with me. If you notice, that's not going to work like that. So I'm going to have to flip all this upside down. I guess let me grab some wrenches. We'll do this quickly. I'm going to have to flip this whole unit upside down to be able to fit this winch on here. Alright, we got, make sure you can hopefully see it. Boat winch is mounted. I need to touch up some paint. Had to flip the little holder around so I can get the winch on there. Everything's tightened up, but the last thing to do on this trailer, so we can call this video a wrap, is get this jack installed, which hopefully it's not as Harbor Freight quality as everything else, but for the price I really can't complain. We got a wheel. I guess that comes in handy. I gotta love how they pack some things, so it's hard to get them out. We got the main assembly and some instructions with hardware. Now, this isn't a how to install the Harbor Freight jack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do this off camera. I'll go ahead and get it in place, get it cinched up, and I'll bring you guys back so you can see the final product. Well, for now, we're going to call this project done. Everything else I'm just going to do off camera. We got the trailer jack installed. You notice it's off the block. Now I can carefully paint the very tip top, the tongue, the latch, whatever you want to call it. The safety chain, clean that up. Go ahead and coat that in some nice protective oil enamel paint. Got the winch on. Everything is done. I had to move this back just a hair, so this needs to be kind of level with that. That way I know I'll have about 1.5 feet of overhang, give or take, on the back. And that could be adjusted as the boat is actually officially sat on here. And as I stated, I'm going to go ahead, I'll paint the bunk risers. I'll give them a nice thick coat since they've already been, needle scaled down. Once they're dry, put the bunk boards on there. As soon as I get off camera, I'm going to go ahead and re-grease these bearings, make sure they're done. I figure I'm not going to hold this video up any longer. There's a lot that I did on this trailer. I've got about a little over a week and a couple days. And that's because the paint itself, when you put it on nice and thick, don't be afraid to put it thick. As long as you've done the prep correctly, that paint's going to adhere, but it is going to need time to dry. Here in North Florida, the humidity is high, so it needed at least 2 or 3 days, and I don't have it in the sun. So once I finish my touch-ups, it comes off there's a little bit on the very bottom of the frame. We're actually going to tip it on its side carefully. I'll do my touch-ups. If we're able to flip it back over, we will, and I will use my ATV to pull it out, and we're going to leave it in the sun so that paint can really adhere, because that's what we want. The whole purpose of doing this isn't just for cosmetics. It is to make sure that this trailer is going to be able to sustain salt and brackish water use and possibly fresh water. There's a couple spots I want to go and fish, so that's the whole purpose of this. Please comment, rate, subscribe. Please give me that thumbs up because I want to get this video up higher on the algorithms of YouTube. But hey, please subscribe, because without you subscribers, that's what makes my channel run. Is I love for you guys to come back and constantly watch some of the videos on what I'm up to. Thank you so much.